It's Friday, geeks, and you are watching another edition of the Friday Night Geek Show. I'm Don Padune, and welcome to the channel where we talk about comic books and other geek stuff. Tonight, we are with YouTuber and Instagram personality with all his comic books, Mike from Nighttiger Comics, who is having a party outside in a cafe in Central Florida. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited about talking about all these subjects and get to know you and just having fun.
Absolutely, and we already have some guests here who have shown up. We have Adrian Benningfield and Scott424. Thank you so much for showing up again. You guys were here last week, and it's great to see you back. Special shout out to Adrian Benningfield, who sent a super chat last week. Thank you for your support and your donation. We also have Adrian V Comics, who is with us from Paris, France tonight. Bienvenue, Adrien. Je parle un petit peu de français. So tonight we have a great show planned for you. We're going to be talking about, because Scott's actually, Mike here is actually a longtime collector of comic books, and we're going to be giving you some tips. We're going to be talking about if now is even a great time to start collecting comic books. As well, we're also going to be talking about if the comic book bubble is going to burst again. But before we get into that, we're going to be talking about comic book legend Denny O'Neil, who sadly passed away last Saturday at the age of 81. Denny O'Neil really needs no introduction. He's worked for Marvel, he worked for DC, he revamped Batman, did a legendary run on Green Arrow. Mike, what can you tell us? What do you think? What kind of contributions do you think Denny O'Neil made to the comic book industry?
I just watched a good documentary on him the other day from Comic Tropes and how he was a great writer and grounding the characters that he wrote about kept them relatable to the common man, which I think is a big attribute that he had.
Absolutely. And as we all know, Denny O'Neil, he was really known for bringing Batman back to his darker roots after, Batman was campy for so long. So he took a step back and he really made Batman like how he was meant to be in his earlier Golden Age appearances. Now, do you have any favorite Denny O'Neil stories at all?
Yeah, well, I just got a great AOK a couple months ago for Man Cave, Batman 251, the first Maniac Joker back into the continue to. Well, anyways, so yeah, I read that. It was awesome. And did he create Ra's al Ghul in the League of Assassins?
Yes, he did. In Batman 232, he created Ra's al Ghul. Absolutely right. And actually, funny thing about that, I know, Mike, you and I not too long ago were talking about how you actually are supposed to pronounce Ra's al Ghul. And funny enough, Denny, in an interview I was listening to, he was saying that his daughter went to the language department at a university and asked, what is the proper pronunciation of this character's name? I always thought it was Ra's al Ghul, but it actually is indeed Ra's al Ghul. So,
that's weird.
I think, Ra's. Yeah. I mean, I personally think I'm still going to say Ra's just because that's how I've always said it. But, if you're looking for the proper pronunciation, that is how you say it. But yeah.
And interesting to me is they offered him the Batman run during the camp years, and he refused it. He said, I cannot write that kind of a Batman.
Right.
So I thought that was pretty cool to know.
Absolutely. Yeah, Denny was just he was awesome. And the thing I like about him too is that he had he really exemplified what a person needs to do to really be successful in the world, because he wasn't always successful. He had, for lack of a better words, a disastrous run on Wonder Woman. He took away her powers for a bit, and the feminists just had a ball with that. So, but he just continued, and he persevered, and he did amazing, some really amazing runs. My personal favorite run was Batman Venom. Have you read Batman Venom at all? That's the one where he fails to save this little girl, and he starts taking the same drug that Bane's on to get stronger, so he doesn't have to go through that again, and he ends up being almost like a junkie. And the reason why I like that too is because Denny was actually saying that he had addiction issues in the past. He was an alcoholic for a bit, and he really could relate to that type of story. So,
what I find genius is someone who can take Green Lantern, a cosmic superhero, and then write him on a road trip with Green Arrow for several issues. That's got to be really hard to do.
Oh, for sure. And were you a fan of that run at all?
Actually, I haven't read much of it, but I always see people talk about it. I think, wow, that has to be pretty genius. Now, I've got my own comics. I write comics and stuff I have in the past. So I know what it's like to write stuff, and it's not easy.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And it's really, really unfortunate that it's really unfortunate that that issue or that run only lasted 14 issues, but it still is memorable. So just wanted to give out some more shout outs here to some people that have shown up. We have Bra69. We also have Donald K. Callahan, who's saying too much background noise. He wants us to turn down the music.
And I wish I could.
And Scott says it sounds like yodeling.
Oh, on my part?
Yeah. And also can't forget Lovell Lucas Jr., who is a huge contributor to this channel, is always very, very active in the comments. So welcome to everybody. So now, Mike, you've been.
I'm gonna move.
Yeah.
Until my battery needs to be recharged again.
Sure.
So that everybody can hear me better.
While Mike's moving, we got Rush Diehard, who also checked into our live stream for tonight. For those of you that are just joining us, we have Mike from Nighttiger Comics. We are live. Special thanks to Adrian Benningfield and RDV, who sent super chats last week. If you'd like to help support the channel, please consider sending a super chat tonight. So, Mike, you've been a long-time collector of comic books. I'd like to know, how did you get into comic books?
Oh, it's just one of those things like putting a frog in a slow pot of boiling water. It just started when I was a kid. So when my cousins handed me a stack of comics, I was just enamored with the colors. I like to draw. So I thought these are great stuff to study. And I would cut all the Spider-Mans out and paste them in notebooks. I'd have pages and pages of just Spider-Man pasted in notebooks. And I just carry them around, look at them, study them, draw the human body. And eventually, I watched like cartoons and Superman from the 50s, but I never really related that to a comic book per se. It wasn't until I got around 12 years old when I saw them on the newsstand, and I picked up a issue of John Byrne's Fantastic Four. When I saw that, I was like, holy smokes, this guy is good. It was just like candy to the eye. And I was like, I took it home and I started copying it, drawing my own action figures, copying his style. So I thought, wow, there has to be more than just this. So I started, go to the, finding out where you could get comics. Found a comic shop and started looking for Fantastic Four. And then when I saw Jack Kirby's, I was like even more blown away. I was like, wow, it just gets better and better. And then it was just like, angels singing. It just opened up. I just wanted to collect every single comic book I could. And that's kind of how it started.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. Now, so you were really enamored by the artwork, kind of took you to this other place. Do you remember specifically which was your first book?
Oh, it's definitely a John Byrne. I remember vividly the Gladiator one on the cover, and Nova. Was it the second Nova?
Okay.
Frankie Ray. And then the issue where Reed Richards said, we can't let Galactus die. And he saved his life. And I was like, I was just so enthralled that these people could create their own stories and all these, just from thin air, create a universe. And so that's what I did as a kid. I just sat in my room all day, all night, just drawing comics, and rarely came out of my room. And back in the day, it was a whole lot cooler. You could go to these mom and pops and you could buy early X-Men for $5-6. And I had to sell all that stuff. But nowadays, you want to buy that stuff, you're talking really low grade, $50. And then you want a really nice book, you're talking hundreds of dollars.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But that Silver Age, that Bronze Age stuff is just, it can't be touched today. I mean, we rarely see anything come out that matches any of that today.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I would totally agree. And it's really amazing how even if you can't remember a specific issue, you really know how much those books resonated with you because you can remember specific panels, specific things that a character said, like, oh, like we cannot let Galactus die. Like I think that's really incredible how much of an effect it had on your childhood.
One of my favorite comics that I remembered I bought off the newsstand was, I don't remember the issue number. It was Batman by Gene Colan, and was the Crime Academy, I think, where they were teaching the criminals how to kill Batman. And the opening panel was Batman on fire, and the guy had a flamethrower. And then you find out in the next panel that it's just one of the students dressed up like Batman. And then you have Matches Malone come into the story later, which is a really cool character. I loved him. And that Gene Colan run on Batman is just absolutely so cool. I don't remember, but there's an issue of Detective from 82 or 83. I think it's the 50th anniversary issue. And they invited Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster to write letters in there, in the letter section. And they both wrote almost a page-long letter about the beginning of DC Comics before it became DC, where Detective Comics hadn't even come out yet, but they were being asked to submit stories for it, and it's really insightful. It's I can't remember the issue, but there's a helicopter on the front, and the guy's kicking Batman off the helicopter. If you guys have that, or you can find it, it's really good to read those letter pages in there.
Absolutely, and I just wanted to just take a moment, Adrian Benningfield. Thank you so much for your super sticker of $1.99. That is amazing and much appreciated. Also, I noticed that RDV popped in too. RDV is currently reading a 2014 run of Grimm Fairy Tales. RDV, thank you for your super chat contribution last week. And we also have James RFB who has popped in. James, welcome to the stream. Okay, so
give me 2 seconds to run to the table and I'll grab some comics.
Yeah, perfect. So for those of you that are just joining us, again, we're with Mike from Nighttiger Comics. If you get a chance, follow Mike on Instagram at Nighttiger Comics. He has a really, really amazing comic book collection. He is constantly posting some amazing books. Mike, you even have quite the Golden Age collection, don't you?
Oh yeah, I love the Golden Age. That's like finding a dinosaur bone in your backyard. Right. It's so significant to the history of the world, just like Golden Age books. Each one of them is just so unique to the history of comics itself.
What's your favorite Golden Age book that you have?
Oh, it changes by day. Oh, I could tell you, I could name 100 issues right now, but I have Smash Comics, number 4, number 6, number 16, and I think 20, but one of them has Bozo the Clown on the cover, which was the number 1 of Smash Comics, was the first robot cover ever in comics.
Oh, wow.
And those are really hard to get. And my favorite are the ones that are like early, before there are even original characters yet in comic books, because they're so integral to the history of just the development of the comic book itself.
Right.
So I just picked one up at a flea market a couple months ago. It's called The Comics from 1937 with a Sheldon Mayer cover. Mm-hmm. And he was hired by Dell Comics to do ads and to do covers because there were no original series yet. They were just reprints from the newspaper. And I got that for like $5. I couldn't believe it.
Well, listen to that, folks. $5 for a Golden Age book. I wish I could find a Golden Age book for $5
from 1937.
Right, eh? Like that's before that even boomed, right? So now the thing that I find really interesting about you, Mike, is when we were touching base yesterday and we're kind of planning out our stream here, that you were telling me that 4 times you tried to get out of comic books and 4 times you have restarted building a collection. So you just can't get it out of you, right?
The first time I really didn't try to get out. I was a young punk. I had a lot of fines, traffic fines and stuff. So in order to stay out of jail, I had to sell my whole collection, early X-Men and early Avengers, all this stuff I had. They gotten cheap, it was like 1984, I think, at the time. So I sold all that for a couple grand and stayed out of jail. But then I started collecting again, and I would just collect anything I could find. If I was at a flea market, they had a box. I didn't care what was in it. I'd negotiate a price and pick it up. And yeah, after a while, I got so much. I was just buying everything. I just got kind of, tired of it. It's like, it's everywhere and it's taking over my life. Let me get rid of this. And I just couldn't stay away from them. Did that whole thing again for another couple of years. I got around up to 10,000, 11,000 comics again. I'm like, man, I had a family then. I was just starting a family. And I didn't have money. I was just buying cheap stuff. And I said, I just want to get out of comics altogether.
Right.
After that, I got remarried. And I thought, I can't do it. It's just part of who I am. It's in my blood. It's in my DNA.
Yep.
I just got to have comics.
Right.
So this time I set a rule. I said, I'm not buying anything older than 89. That way I won't just buy everything and anything I can find. And that way I'll be a little more selective. And that way I won't just have all these comics that are just not worth anything to me. Because I would buy stuff weren't even worth anything. Just because it was a comic, I wanted it. Even if I didn't care about reading it. Yeah. So I started to care more about reading it and what it's about. And then once my kids got older, they moved out and we moved to another place. Then I discovered here was the social media was coming into play around 2006, 2008. You had the first Iron Man. Things were changing as far as comic book collecting. I was in the Facebook groups and I'm like, oh, these books that are coming out brand new are worth a lot of money a couple days later. Just because whatever. And I'm like, this is a weird phenomenon. And I had fun with that. I had fun with the specking. But after about 2 or 3 years of doing that, it got to be stressful. Because here's a new book coming out tomorrow. I work out of town. I get home on Thursday. I go to nope, they're all gone. Yep. If you want to buy one, it's $20 now. It's $30.
I know the feeling. And I just wanted to thank this old stone nerd. I love that name. That is an epic name. Thank you so much for the super sticker of $2. I really appreciate your support for the channel. Awesome name, eh?
I do like the Golden Age Sandman. I love all DC Golden Age.
Yep, the Golden Age Sandman, and then there's also that was James's question. Also, who Lovell Lucas Jr. wants to know who your favorite comic artist is that inspires your work.
There are comic artists like George Perez or Don Newton. I don't think I could ever even what's the word I'm looking for? Draw like them.
Yeah.
But I have drawn like Byrne and Kirby and studied how they draw, and it's cool to see if you can draw the same way they do. But then you want to develop your own kind of style. But I wouldn't mind drawing like George Perez at all. But Kirby has this unique ability to not draw correct anatomy and make it look so cool. And that's what I like about Kirby. And he can he knows how to place things in panels to make it just explode, make it come alive. And that's what I love about Kirby. Also, another good artist, if you don't know Frank Bruner, his artwork, it's like he's almost like Colin. He uses circles and swirls and makes the artwork seem like it's really alive and it's flowing off the page.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gene Colan has that special ability too. But I wanted to show this stuff because
Yeah, for
These,
sure.
like we were talking about, like today's market is about keys. Everybody wants keys. But there are all these other comics from the Golden and Silver Age that really, even though this is a minor key, it's really not a key. It's the first League of Assassin that fights the Justice League. But this is a book you can buy for under $10.
Wow.
And
Okay.
it's 48 pages. The art is beautiful. It's actually Neil Adams does several pages in here. He actually does the splash page, which is beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So I just wanted to touch on that. There are so many comics that aren't keys that are beautiful. You can get them for so inexpensive. You can start collecting today, and you can have a really great collection.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess that brings me to because one of the things that we're going to be talking about today is some tips that you might have for some people that are just dead set on collecting. So would one of your tips be to maybe not focus so much on keys, maybe just buy other things that just interest you, even if they're not necessarily a key?
Well, you hear this a lot, and it sounds like a cliche, but buy what you think you like, what makes you feel good, brings out the inner child in you. That's all I can say. Everybody's different. There are people who love the modern books that come out today, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's their taste. I don't particularly like that, but that if that makes them happy, that's what they should collect. I like Golden Age. I like Silver. I like Bronze. There are a few modern books. Every now and then I'll see a beautiful cover. A lot of times I'm disappointed by the art inside, but the cover is so beautiful. Art Germ does some great work, and there are a lot. I have a lot of his covers, but then the interior work are by people you've never heard of. But it's all part. That's all part of how they do it. So yeah. So just find what you like. In the beginning, you might not know. So pick up some Golden Age, pick up some Bronze. Go to the local newsstand or the local comic shop and look through the back issue bins. For me, I don't like spending a lot of money. So you all here were hunters, so we hone our skills. Look for that deal and find the deal you like. There's always a deal somewhere. So you don't have to spend big money.
Yeah, and Rush Diehard, YouTube user Rush Diehard here, shout out to you here, says I think gives a really, really good some really good advice here. It says sell your moderns and buy high grade silver and Bronze Age keys. Been doing that for 20 plus years.
See, now I started doing that. I started buying high grade stuff only to keep me from buying a lot. So if I go to a store and I was like, I have too many comics, so if I find something in a good price at a high grade, I will buy it. But I'm not just going to go and buy everything now. That's the way to keep me from buying too much anymore.
Right. Absolutely.
But these high grade books they go for a lot of money. Even now, you know how it's a trickle down effect. Even the ones that aren't the big keys, people are going for because they're lower money, they're lower price. But as more people go for them, the higher price they go. And people start going for the mid grades. And once everyone's going for mid grades, then the mid grade prices start going up. And it's
absolutely. Yeah. I think you make a good point there, and I think we're gonna touch upon that a little bit later when we talk about the modern day comic book collecting market. Scott here saying that he likes Dark Age comics. So, like, I'm guessing what he means by that are 90s comics. What do you think about 90s comics?
I don't like them.
You don't like them, eh?
On a basis, there are good ones, but consistently they're not that good. On a consistent basis, they're not good. There are gems in between that you can find. And I don't know all the good ones, and people inspire me to discover those. But consistently, it became more of a marketing comic. The comic market became, or the comic industry became more about marketing the book and less about pleasing the customer. Less about a good story and good art and more about how can we sell this as many as possible and move on to the next series.
I definitely can't disagree with that. When it comes to 90s comics, I think I have a little bit of nostalgia goggles on because I absolutely love 90s comics. I totally agree with you. There's a lot of crap out there. Some of my favorite storylines, though, I know for sure came from the 90s, but you're totally right. There was a lot of like shoddy business that was going on there, trying to sell multiple covers and lenticular covers and all that. So for sure, I totally agree with you on that. I'm actually the channel's going to be posting a video probably sometime next week in which I'm kind of rant a little bit about some modern day comics and say that I miss 90s comics. So don't hate me too much on that one, Mike.
Don't get me wrong. Now, I was a fanboy. I ran out and bought every issue of every Image comic for the first year. Then I just noticed that they're not getting any better. The stories, there was no substance to the stories. The art was like trying to be in your face and cool, but there was no real substance to them. And I was like, I'm getting tired of this. They're not going to be memorable. Now, if you think of any Image comics, do you remember any really outstanding storylines?
The only Image book I have to say, overall in general, from the 90s Image books, I would have to say as a company they were pretty crappy. But I have to say that the good Image story for me was Spawn. I absolutely love Spawn. Wasn't the best story, but it was definitely the most serviceable one, I think, on the Image roster at the time.
And I do have a bunch of Spawns, but I have not read any of them.
I'm sure.
When can I find them for $1 in high grade? I'm going to buy them.
Right, and I'm sure all of us can identify with that. Let me know in the comments here if you have this huge backlog of comics that you still have yet to read. I know I've been out of the actively buying back issues for a while, and I still have back issues that I have to read. So,
well, I figure I grab them for $1, and if people want to trade, then I have something that people might want to trade.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's also a good strategy too. So, I mean, yeah, buy what you like, but also you might want to pick up things that you're maybe not necessarily interested in. So if there's someone who might want to trade with you, you can get something to do that.
But who knows? I might pick one up and read it and go, wow, I guess I was wrong. Because I'll tell you what, I had this thing about not liking sword and sorcery comics for years. And I finally read one of my Conans, and I was like, what the heck have I been thinking? This is so good. And now I'm just the biggest Conan fan. You can pick up a Conan book from Marvel, and it doesn't matter what issue, and you're going to get a good story and great art.
Yep. And Lovell Lucas Jr. here is asking. He's interested in trading, and he's asking how to hit you up. I'm sure the answer to that is to check you out on your Instagram account at Nighttiger Comics, or also on your YouTube channel. Correct?
Let me tell you this, guys. I still can't move long boxes. It's going to be a month or two, and I already have a couple trades that people are wanting to do with me. But I told them, you're going to wait because I cannot pick up a long box or move a long box yet.
Absolutely. So you'll probably just have to do single floppies, right?
I can't get to them because I got them all blocked in with other boxes.
Oh, that's right.
So I have a shelf of all the stuff that I've read, and then I have tables of stuff that I haven't read and the presses that I can't move yet.
Right. Absolutely. Now, moving on with our discussion of tips here, I wanted to talk a little bit about some invaluable tools for collectors. And you actually showed me something yesterday and today, which I wasn't even that familiar with, and that is the Gerber guides, which I think are a really, really invaluable tool for collectors. You want to talk a little bit about the Gerber guides?
Yes, I do. Now, it's funny. People will know about them, and then people will know nothing about them.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 4 volumes. There's 1 and 2 are Golden Age. And these were put together. I don't know if you know that Ernest Gerber and his wife, Ernest Gerber actually created the Mylar bag. Mm-hmm. So what he was doing is he was into all different things related to comics, and he wanted to put out his own price guide. So he went around photographing comics from different collectors, and he had a network of people that he knew. Well, when he was researching them, he went to the Smithsonian Institute, and they used Mylar to protect a lot of their documents. So he inquired about if they had anything for comic books, and of course they didn't. And he's wondering if he could produce it, and people told him he couldn't. Well, he's an engineer. He has a degree in engineering. He went and invented about 7 different prototypes before he hit on one that would work, and built a machine to create or produce the first Mylar bags for comics. So he got into that. Well, also I said he was in the comic book industry in different areas. And he had a lot of people that were fiercely in competition with him. They did not want him to put out his own price guide. And so they put up a lot of roadblocks, and he wasn't able to do that. But he had all these comic books that he had filmed or shot going around the country to different collectors at the time. And he didn't know what to do with it. He's like, I want to do something with it. So he decided to put this 4-volume reference books out. So he not only took his network of collectors, but he went and contacted many more collectors through those networks. And I think in these 2 volumes, let me show volume 2, he probably photographed at least 75% of every Golden Age book ever produced, from 1937 to 1956. And there are a couple of inclusions of Marvel books from the Silver Age and some DC.
That's unbelievable, and I think it's a couple of people in the comments right now are saying, "Oh yeah, I have that. That's amazing." And I really think this is like a hidden gem that a lot of people don't know about. But I definitely think this is a great tool for collectors to have. Now, is Gerber still alive?
I believe he is.
Okay.
I don't know. Actually, I really don't know. But he took it further than just that. But not only is this the highest quality printing from 1982 that they had, used the highest quality inks, highest quality production, and not only that, I just lost my thought.
So highest quality production.
So he shot 175 rolls of film.
Mm-hmm.
And when he went over those first 175 rolls, he realized that the camera settings he used didn't get him the highest quality pictures. He was a little disappointed by that. He was remarried by this and had a new wife that was very supportive of what he was doing. And she said, honey, you just got to go back and you got to do it all over. He traveled another, I think he said 2,500 miles, another 5 more months to reshoot all those books to secure or to make sure that there was the highest quality that he was putting out. Now, he also said he could have done just a bit lower quality and it would have been okay, probably with the customer. And he could have made 30% more profit, but he thought, I'm willing to just sacrifice that 30% more profit to make the highest quality reference books to date. But he still went beyond that. He created this thing called the scarcity scale. He puts that in with each comic book in there. And he lists it from 1 to 10 on a scarcity scale. So say when you're getting up to the number 6 or number 7, you're talking less than 50 in existence. And then, of course, then you get into 7s and 8s, you're talking like 20 into less 20 into existence. And then the 10 is known to have been produced but never seen a copy ever. So not only that, he also created another scale called the RVI, which is basing each comic on a value related to money, but not in money terms, so that the value scale can transcend over time. Because as you know, you don't want to deal with increments of money, but it's more like a 10% scale of increase or decrease in value. So he did a lot, and these are very special. And then they have volume 3 and 4, which is the Marvels. Every Marvel comic from 1961, first Fantastic Four, all the way to, I believe, 1984, 86. Every comic except any reprint series. So that's pretty cool.
That's incredible.
These are more coveted, the Marvels, among the people that own these. They don't really like to get rid of the ones, so they're harder to get, a little more expensive.
Wow. And like many hardcore fans know about this, but I feel like a lot of average comic fans don't know about this, but people know about Overstreet, right? So do you think this is a situation in which maybe Gerber got Bill fingered? Do you think yeah.
Maybe. He doesn't really go into specifics on to what happened, but he said there were people in the industry that were jealous, that's his words, jealous of him getting into producing his own comic price guide. They didn't want him doing it. It may have been Overstreet, I don't know.
Yeah.
He doesn't go into detail about it. Now, when I show these, I always give a warning. These are like the Sears Roebuck catalog of comics. Be careful. When you open up these pages, you're going to want to buy every book you see. You're going to want to track it down and see if you can find it. See if you can own it. That's what every time I open these, I go on eBay, start looking up books.
Wow.
And I have found quite a few because some of these are so obscure that people don't even know what they are. Like this,
Absolutely.
like take this series here, True. Not a lot of people know about that. And some of the issues are coveted, some aren't, but you can get these relatively cheap as far as the series goes in collecting Golden Age.
Absolutely. And now, while you're showing us those, just wanted to just call some attention to some of our new viewers and participants in the stream. We have Eric Breen, who was a guest on the show last week. Very, very active on the channel. We have Crash Landon, Adrian V Comics, Perry Comics, who says Happy Friday. Isn't Friday a great day? And eBay totally is addictive.
So Adrian asked if I have any foreign comics. I do have one. I do have a bunch of Spanish ones, Mexican, and I have one Italian comic of Spider-Man, first appearance of the Rhino. Found it for $1 at the comic shop. So who could say I found the first appearance of Rhino for $1?
For $1. And who cares if it's in Italian?
I wanted to show this. This is what I bought recently.
Beautiful.
I have done research on this series for quite a few years as far as what's the more desirable issues. Mm-hmm. Never seen this one for sale ever before. It's really low grade, but grabbed it for $50. And then when I got it, I just, let me look it up in the Gerber Guide. So it is a number 7. So that's less than 50 of these known to exist at the time the books were produced.
Wow.
And I've never seen it. And it's a World War II cover.
Wow.
And a lot of people want the covers that depict the era. So that was a beautiful find. I'm glad that I got that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I just kind of wanted to get into now, if you think, because I mean, you are quite a prolific comic book collector. Do you think now is a good time to get into collecting comic books?
I was waiting for you to ask that. I think any time is a good time to get into collecting comic books. I don't have any reason why you wouldn't want to. Go to a flea market and look around. That might be a little bit hard right now, but even if you have a big LCS, go there, see what you can find. See if they have dollar bins. I went to a shop once and they have one room that's all dollar bins. Mm-hmm. Now I'm a hunter. I went in there. I spent a well over an hour. I hunted the best books they had in there. Brought out a stack like this. And when I put it on the counter, the guy goes, "Where'd you get these?" I said, "From the dollar room." "Oh, no, you didn't." I said, "Yes, I did." They basically started calling me a liar in no uncertain terms. I was getting up to, well, I can't sell this one for $1. There was like Strange Tales with about 3/4 of the cover missing. And I can't sell that one. A lot of underground comic, can't sell that one. I say, dude, I mean, you have a dollar room, and then I spent all this time, and then you tell me, oh, no, I didn't find them in there. I walked out. But you can. It's just a thing. You can go to these shops, and sometimes they just miss a lot of things, and you can find them cheap.
That was definitely an instance of, the guy bought a few collections, didn't even bother to go through them and just threw them in the dollar room. And, then you find some stuff, and now he's aware that, okay, there's something that's worth, some money.
He probably tells his employees, oh, I can't go through all this. Let the customers find the good stuff. When they bring it out, we'll just take it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I have an LCS. They have a policy. If you find any issue in the back issue bin without a price, it's $1. And I found quite a few keys, and they honor that.
That's great.
I found the first Riri Williams is Iron Man number 9, I think, for $10. And I was checking out, and the owner's like, this is a $7 book. I'm like, I know. So I gave him $20,
Wow.
And another time at the same store, he had these packets. You buy 6 comics for $2. It's like, they put them together. And so he's checking me out. I grab a grab bag off. I look at the back. Oh, my goodness. They had the Punisher bullseye cover for the Punisher with the big knife. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. No, I do know. Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll take this. And I'm thinking, I hope he doesn't look at the back. Please don't look at the back. So I got it for 35 cents, which was like a $35 comic at the time. But I felt guilty about it. I ended up telling him a few weeks later and ended up buying some books and giving him more money than what he had on it. Because, you know, it all comes back to you.
Now I have a great question here from Lovell Lucas Jr. And actually, this was going to be a question that I was going to eventually ask, and that is, what are your thoughts on outrageous prices on collecting good books? So basically, why are the prices so high right now?
I'm gonna head over here. That is a good question. It's a new market. You got different collectors, and now you have people with credit cards, and they don't care about, you know, they don't care about running them up. I mean, I have some credit card debt from buying comics. Mm-hmm. So, but I guess it's that whole thing of missing out. They don't want to miss out, and they can't find the book at a lower price anywhere. And so they end up, I can't figure it out, really. That's the truth. Mm-hmm. It just amazes me, the prices on some of these books. I bought Marvel Spotlight number 12 a month ago for $25, high grade. And I wanted to see, let me buy another one. So I looked a couple days ago before I put out that video. And it's $40 to $50 for a lower grade, for like a 6.0 instead of a 7.0 to an 8.0. I was like, wow. So I bought me another 5.0 at the same price. Figured, you know, I better just get another one now. And then, you know, maybe I could sell it and make a little money. And the same thing with the Son of Satan number 1. That book is just creeping up now. And it's such a far out minor key, but then they have a TV show coming out. So everybody's like, yeah, I better jump out. I better get mine now. And then, you know, the sellers say, everybody's wanting this book. Let me bump it up.
Right. Yeah, I definitely have some thoughts on this too, because I've been researching it a little bit, because I've been out of the back issue game for a while, just because the prices are getting so ridiculous. And I think the difference between collecting today and collecting in the past is that collecting today is very, very much dictated by movies, what movies are coming out on superheroes, what TV shows, what video games. And, you know, all of a sudden when a movie or TV show comes up, they just increase the prices, right?
I call it the media age. It's
right.
The Mercury instead of modern. Let's call it the Mercury age now.
Right. Absolutely.
It's just driven by media.
Right. And it's really kind of sad, because, you know, when it comes to comic books, the general rule of thumb was, and Stan Lee said it himself too, from interviews that I watched with him in the 80s and the 90s. It's all supply and demand, but I don't think that rule necessarily applies to this age that we're currently in right now. Because, like I was telling you when we were chatting yesterday, there are books from the 90s, which, you know, just a couple years ago, you could find in 50-cent bins, dollar bins, quarter bins, whatever. And now if you're searching those particular issues on eBay, you'll see them listed for $15, $20, some $50. It's like, okay, there's definitely not a supply issue here. And I think there are more of those particular books out there than there are people hunting them, yet the prices are still high. And they're artificially inflated.
Mutants number 98 I hate that book. If someone offered me for $50 for my private collection, I wouldn't even touch it. But of course I'd pay it $50 because I know I could sell it for $250 just like that. But that book has a terrible character, awful art, bad writing. It's not a good key at all, but people want that book. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
It's definitely a hot book right now. I have it in my collection. I was fortunate enough to get it when it wasn't too expensive, but it definitely exploded. Deadpool is one of the hottest characters around right now, along with Harley Quinn. So those.
What's the most memorable Deadpool story that you've ever read?
The most memorable Deadpool story that I've ever read, I would have to say, and I've said this before, haven't read any memorable. I mean, I haven't read everything with Deadpool out there. Don't get me wrong. I've missed a lot of Deadpool stuff, but I can tell you specifically in Deadpool's first appearances. So New Mutants 98 and X-Force number 2, those two stories that he appears in, nothing memorable. I remember when I read those, I'm like, okay, these are supposed to be key issues, and I'm like, this was nothing special. I don't even remember what happened in those issues.
Do you know what I remember? Because I read the next issue. What was it? You said X-Force? I have that one.
X-Force #2.
Yeah, and I was like, I was laughing at the art. I was like, I just don't understand how this even made it out of the office.
You know what? And that's funny that you mentioned that, because you were talking about drawings of characters that are unproportional, and Liefeld is known for doing that. What are your thoughts on Liefeld?
I used to hate him with a passion, but now I find it part of the culture. And when
Absolutely.
I read it, I look for those things that he does different, and so I can find comedy in it. And it's unique.
Yep.
It is part of the culture, and I do have a few Liefeld issues, and when I read them, I just get a good, happy feeling of looking at it, smiling, laughing a little bit. It's just so cheesy art. It's
Exactly. Honestly, I have to admit, I am an unironic fan of Rob Liefeld. And I just think, like I said, I don't think he's the greatest artist, but I think his stuff is fun to look at. And I really admire the man for all the success that he's had, even given the fact that he's not the greatest artist,
You have to give the man props. I mean, he's a genius. He's the most terrible artist, but he's one of the most celebrities among comic books. That's genius to me. How do you do that? I mean, that has to have some kind of merit.
I just had to read this comment because I just think it's hilarious. Dark Angel Callie says, I bet that a new Warriors comic variant with Trailblazer wearing a bikini will be worth millions on 2030.
Hey, you never know nowadays.
Yeah, you never know. Now, for those people who don't know about this new Warriors thing and Trailblazer, I'm actually posting a rant about it probably sometime next week. But if you don't know what Trailblazer looks like, she is, I think, probably the first overweight superhero to make it to comic book panels, unless you can think of any other ones.
Isn't that fat shaming?
I didn't realize you were so sensitive, Mike. I didn't realize you were so sensitive.
Hey, that's political correctance.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely, and that's I think the point that Marvel's trying to get across. She looks like she eats trail mix.
How do I feel about Steve Ditko's art? Someone wants to know, or how do we feel about it? Again, he's part of the culture. I mean, he's so iconic. There are issues like, I think, was it you that talked about it in the video? The later stuff in the 80s that he did was really, really bad. I mean,
I think so. I might have mentioned that. Yeah.
I think it's an Avengers annual where they play baseball or something that he does an issue. It's really bad, but it's Steve Ditko. I mean, what can you say? He's part of creating Spider-Man, and his stuff in the beginning has such a uniqueness that even though it's not the best art, in my opinion, it just has something about it that makes it special.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And I think that's really interesting that you mentioned that about Ditko. I don't have like the first appearances of Spider-Man, but I have the omnibus, and seeing his art, you kind of see Spider-Man drawn in like these really weird kind of distended ways. Like he looks like really, really awkward. And I really thought that, I think he was, I don't want to say he's doing it on purpose, but I think his art really suited the time, because you got to think that Marvel was coming out of this era where they were doing these like really cheap, like lame horror stories, and they were trying, so I guess they were maybe trying to make Spider-Man like a horror character, I don't know, but I mean, it is fun to look at, but artists have to evolve. So, when you're doing the same stuff in whatever 1985 as you were doing back in 1963, I mean, that really isn't going to fly, right?
But also, I think some of those contortional poses that he drew were mimicked by later artists. Yeah. They remember reading that as a kid, and they used that in the way that they depicted Spider-Man, and it worked. Absolutely. Because he was a spider. Yeah. But if I had to say, some of the best Deco art is in the Atlas run from 1976. Tiger Man, he does some good Tiger Man.
Absolutely.
I forget, is it issue 2? I don't remember. I was blown away when I opened it. I was like, this is Deco. This is so good.
Yep. Absolutely. And I kind of feel like you're mentioning Spider-Man in those contortional type poses. I'm thinking Todd McFarlane. Todd McFarlane drew Spider-Man in some really awesome type poses, and I know he's more of a pinup artist, but I just thought that was awesome. It was almost like he was paying homage to that.
And who was the guy that did Savage Dragon? He did the
Spider-Man
Spider-Man
Eric Larson.
He tried to do that too. Eric Larson just wasn't quite as good at doing it.
Right.
But he did some really unique panels.
Yeah.
They stuck out among the really bad artwork he did. I picked up a few issues recently.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and Louis, who was a guest on our show not too long ago. Shout out to you, Louis, saying without Ditko, no Spider-Man. And of course, I definitely would agree with that.
I would say the Spider-Man that we know without Ditko, we would have probably something different. And so the Spider-Man that we know, he contributed a lot to that Spider-Man.
Right. Now, I wanted to get to our last question because we're nearing on 9 o'clock here. So, do you think that the comic book bubble will burst again? It burst in the 90s. Will it burst again?
I would say no, because I think the market is a lot different. It's a whole new animal than we've ever seen. We're just exploding with all this new kind of media stuff, instantaneous communication especially with prices of books and books coming out. I mean, even the book before it even hits the LCS, everybody knows what it is.
Right.
I mean, I had ordered Punchline appearances way before they were coming out, and then Diamond screwed my LCS. I never got any of the copies I ordered. Right. And we could see what happened with that book. And by the time the first full appearance came out, nobody really cared. They had the real books that she appeared in first. And when that other one came out, they overprinted it. Everybody got it. It was meaningless.
Yep. And I definitely think that you're totally right about that. It's a different ecosystem now with respect to the comic book market. It's not the same as it was in the 90s, but I definitely think it is a dangerous trend right now that people are jacking up prices on books artificially when the demand just isn't there. What do you think about that?
Do I like it personally? No. But on the other hand, this is America. That's part of freedom. Right. So that part I do understand, and I do like the fact that we have freedom to do these, to have those opportunities to make money. So personally, I struggled with that in the beginning. I hated it, but then I started to realize, that's entrepreneurism. They have the right to make money and to earn a living. And if they can do it this way, then more power to them. If it's harder for me to buy that product, well, then I'm just going to have to try to find it somewhere else or find a different way to get that product, or just realize that I'm never going to get it. Right. But if I have an opportunity, like I said, if someone presents me with the New Mutants 98 for $50, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to turn around and sell it for $250.
Mm-hmm. I think Mike's battery just died. Okay, so while we're waiting for Mike to get back on here, I'm going to address Tib Plateau's question here. What is your opinion of many, many different variants? My personal opinion, I actually am not a big fan of variants. I just don't think it's really necessary. It's the comic book companies that are really trying to exploit fans. That's just my opinion. I don't really see the need in putting so many variants out there just so comic book prices can go higher on that particular book. I've never been a fan of variants. I personally always just get the regular covers, to be honest. So yeah, and then I'm gonna just read Adrian Benningfield's comment here. I think the economic crisis happening here in America, where 32% of people can't afford rent and housing payments, will affect the market. I definitely think you're right about that. I definitely would have to agree. Right now is if you've been specifically affected by COVID, it is unfortunate. You're not going to have that money to spend on comics. So that's why I definitely think that it is absolutely insane that a person would post a book on eBay, like say X-Men Jim Lee #1 for $20 even, but it's a book that you in theory could still get in a dollar bin. I just think it's ridiculous, and it's definitely not stopping people. I'm thinking to myself, okay, who's buying these books for that amount of money? Well, people are buying those books for that amount of money. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many people posting them for that amount of money. It's just it's unbelievable. Okay, give me a second here. We have Nighttiger Comics who's trying to text me here. He's saying, I'm here. Oh, there you are. Sorry, I didn't even see you there, Mike. He's back. There
My
we go.
laptop
You back?
died.
That's okay. No problem at all. So before we got cut off, we were just talking about the comic book market. And so you got these prices that are really kind of fluctuating all over the place. Who are all these new people that are coming into the market nowadays?
That are coming into it?
Yeah, like what do you think the demographic is? Because like for example, like back in the late 80s, early 90s, there were tons and tons and tons of investors, like Wall Street executives that were investing in all these, golden age books, silver age books. And then, they started doing news stories about all this. And then, your average guy is just like, oh, well, I'm going to start doing that too. I'm going to buy 5 copies of X-Men #1 by Jim Lee.
I don't even know. I don't even know how to answer that question. I never really thought about it. I know there's not young kids coming in droves into the market. So right. I don't know. College students?
Definitely. I definitely think some college students. I think there are a lot of newbies, a lot of I don't want to say kids, but there comes a point where, a kid will hit a certain age, maybe 13, 14, 15, 16, teenage years, and think and maybe get interested in comics, and then they're hitting the comic book markets and they don't know how much a particular book is worth, and they might be more apt to spend a dumb price on a book that isn't even really worth that much. I don't know what you think about that.
I know there's quite a few people that are outside the media market. I've heard people recently say they didn't even know that there was a Facebook comic book community or a YouTube comic book community. So they have been collectors already. Then, like me years ago, they discovered this online presence, and they kind of jump into the quagmire. It would seem like they probably don't even realize they just collect what they have, or they've had their collection for years, and then they realize, wow, this stuff's worth money. I was going through a short box the other day, just kind of hit and miss looking up stuff. I'm like, wow, this Star Wars #8 is worth $25. This Star Wars #10 is worth $35. I had no idea.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it's just we're definitely in a crazy uncertain time. I kind of am comparing this to the Wild West of comics now, because you can get deals on books, but especially in my area, they're hard to find. I know in your area they're a little easier to find because you live in a more of a metropolis. But yeah, so I just wanted to wrap up here, Mike.
Let me say one thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Silver Age, Golden Age, and Bronze are more stable investment. You know that those books are going to either stay at the price they're at now, or they're going to climb up. I mean, if they do have a crash, those books are probably the least likely the ones that are going to drop the most. But these new modern books coming out the last few years, those things can go up so fast and go down just as fast and fall further down or climb further higher. Yep. So they're the least books you want to put an investment in. You want to invest in the older stocks.
Absolutely.
Per se.
And that's definitely driving up the prices of those Silver and Bronze Age books, which in turn I feel is kind of increasing the price of those 90s books, because the people that don't want to spend the money on the Silver Age and the Bronze Age books are now going to the 90s. Now you have this influx of
and they're same thing with the Golden Age. You see a lot of people going into the Golden Age. They don't know anything about it. They just know, they hear certain terms like L.B. Cole, or certain artist names and Schomburg, and okay, that's a book that I have to try to get.
Absolutely, for sure. Well, Mike, thank you so much for joining us. I would encourage everybody to check out Mike's YouTube channel, which is Nighttiger Comics, correct?
Yep.
Yep. So you can. I'll leave. It's two words. Yep. I will leave a link to Mike's channel in the description, as well as his Instagram name, which is at Nighttiger Comics, correct?
That's it. All one word.
Perfect. Mike, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much to everybody who showed up to our live stream, our Friday Night Geek Show. Once again, I've really been enjoying doing this. We are definitely going to continue doing this every single week, so you all better be here, because I have to talk comics with people.
I'm a true believer now.
Yeah, exactly. All the true believers show up here, just like you were saying before. All man is connected to Adam and Eve, but we're connected with comics.
What's that song by Marky Mark? Dante D on the backup, drug free, so put the crack up.
There you go. Exactly. So thank you all once again, and thank you to This Old Stone Nerd and Adrian Benningfield, who contributed super chats. Really appreciate it. It is Friday, geeks. Get out there, have some fun, and we will see you all next week. See you all in the next episode. Thanks, Mike.
Take care.
Take care, everyone.
Let's go party.